questions. So, so we'll go to Hillary now.
Hi, how's everybody doing? Sarah's not here, so I had to, I'm scrambling at the last minute to throw some things together. So I did want to talk about, we've got most of our vote centers settled. We're still trying to get a few remaining ones, but we're planning, we're going to have 45 vote centers plus the 3 pop-ups and a roving. We're going to have, of course, the 3 will be open at E29 in the North County, Mid County, South County. And then at E10, we'll have some additional ones. And then, of course, at E4, the rest will be opened up. We've finalized, I think, all of our drop boxes. We've got a couple of new locations. I'm real excited about the Kings Mountain location. So they're going to have a drop box up there at the community center at Kings Mountain. There have been some additions to the counties that are going to be holding Voters' Choice Act elections. Transitioning counties are Alameda, Kings, Merced, Marin, Riverside, San Diego, San Benito, Santa Cruz, yay, Sonoma, Stanislaus, Ventura, and Yolo. So those are all places that will, need my expertise when I go into a VCA consulting business, right? Jim, I don't know if you had anything to add real quick. Oh, we just candidate filing. We just closed candidate filing. So well, actually today is technically because of the offices that are in extension. So today at 5 o'clock, we'll be locking and barring the door so nobody can run in at the last minute and try and become a candidate. Diane, did you have a question of some sort?
Yeah,
are you just waving question. Hi?
No, well, both hi, and also just a quick question, just so we're all straight in terms of what positions will be on the June primary. So correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming the cities do not generally have primary. So what we're going to see are statewide and countywide offices in June.
And then some measures, there'll be some school district measures and things like that. So yeah, there are some more close local stuff, but yeah, mostly it's the countywide offices and stuff.
Good.
Yeah, the cities and stuff will be in November. That'll be we will be insanely busy here for candidate filing. This wasn't too bad. It was good learning. We had a bunch of new people in candidate filing. So this is a really good learning experience because it's not as busy in this election as it will be in the next one. The next one is when but the cities will have their city candidates. We just get all the school district candidates and stuff like that come in here.
Yeah, because the reason I was asking is just as we do any voter outreach, because we obviously wanted to talk about redistricting and how some districts will change. It sounds like for the primaries, we can just focus primarily on, I guess, the Board of Supervisors and the State Assembly and the congressional race. And the city redistricting, we can kind of wait and do.
Yeah, there's stuff like sheriff on here, county assessor, clerk, recorder, some judges, I think, stuff like that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Jim, did you have anything to add? Maybe he's a busy fella. Marnie, you had a question for me or for Diane?
Hi. Yeah. Hi, Hillary. How are you?
Good.
I wanted to kind of put a fine point on the deadline extension date for today. We were just a little bit taken by surprise. And so I just was curious, is that countywide? Is that statewide?
Actually,
at first we thought it was just, Assembly, Senate, and congressional races, but then we found out it's also some of the local supervisor races, and maybe not our county, but so we were confused. Maybe you could just talk really briefly about that.
Any office at E88 in which the incumbent doesn't file goes into a 5-day extension. So we didn't have any for our local county offices. None of those went into extension. I think we just had the 2 Kevin Mullins' seat and Jackie Spears' seat are the two that will be going into extension because they are considered the incumbents, even though they're a new district. They are the current office holders. So it will go, those two offices went into extension.
Okay. We work in Santa Clara County as well. And so we got that, the sheriff's race, I guess. Yeah. So that threw us for a loop. So, okay. So that all makes sense. It's all about the incumbency. Thank you so
It's
much.
all,
I
yeah, it's
appreciate
all
it.
about the incumbent or current office holder, whether or not they choose to run, and it
Okay.
goes into extension.
Surprise.
Yay!
At least to us. Thank you very much.
I think Mike has a question.
Just quick, this kind of goes back to stuff we were talking about months ago, but that bill that was supposed to switch some of these elections to the presidential cycle, 2024, like sheriff and DA, and I know we still have all those races this year. It wasn't eliminated, but is that still going to take effect? Like people running for sheriff are going to run again in 24, or did that bill die?
That bill, this is Jim. That bill has basically gone into a committee. It's a 2-year hold. So for purposes of our elections, the status quo is what remains. We're not going into that mode, although the next legislative session to be determined.
Okay, so it'll be 2026 if nothing happens.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're on the current schedule right now. There have been no changes. Those were proposed changes to coordinate the DA and some of the local offices to coordinate with the presidential election. That has not been approved or passed. So the current system that is in effect right now is the one that will continue all the way through until the legislature changes that process.
Okay,
I would like to add that one of the reasons for the size of the November election is that SB 415, which was adopted 4 or 5 years ago, which moved jurisdictions to even numbered year elections, all cities, all local governing bodies to even numbered year elections, really is taking hold now, where we're probably going to see somewhere in the neighborhood of around 250 candidates, as you know, basically the last election kind of was an indicator of things to come under SB 415. But as all jurisdictions have moved into even numbered year elections, as Hillary said, this is going to be a very, very large election. We'll probably see 60 jurisdictions or close to participating in that election. So that's one that we're really going to have to gear up for. We're going to need, help in terms of recruitment, poll workers, etc., as we approach that one. But SB 415 is really coming into play for this November election, and that's one of the reasons it's so large. With respect to the redistricting, you're absolutely correct. Right now we're dealing with the, Senate, state, congressional. Those have already been determined. Our office is now working with all of the jurisdictions in the county. We have some 68 that can potentially go to election to get their maps in. And we've set a date of April 20th, that week of April 21st or so, for people to get their shape files in to us. And so they're working diligently at the local level to get their shape files and their district boundaries set. We anticipate it'll probably be by May that we get all of that information, and we're going to need it by then in order to do the re-precincting and the redistricting, because that really is just a tremendous job that we wind up having to do in terms of our GIS folks, is to put all of those new districts, or put the precincts into the new districts. And so we're looking at May, and that'll be reflective in the November election. So that's a big thing that we're going through right now.
And Jim, will there be a really, thank you. I have another question for you about those maps. Will they be easy to read? Because the maps that we've been able to find right now are not the clearest as far as, where exactly the lines are.
Is there a place that I'm missing that we should be looking for those?
Well, basically, the jurisdictions are responsible for getting those maps. Every jurisdiction under the law is responsible for developing and maintaining their maps. So we have to kind of start there. Because it's such a complicated process, they look to us. And what we do is we recommend that they work with, a GIS consultant to actually develop what's called a shapefile. For our GIS system, shapefiles work best. And those shapefiles with our GIS system are pretty good. They're very, very accurate. I mean, you're going to see a lot different than in years past, the quality of what we're looking at. But you should be able to identify that. And, just call our office and we'll direct you as to the maps that, we have received, and then be able to view them. But the quality that I'm seeing with our new GIS system that's going into play is pretty good. Their shapefiles, you should be able to identify that.
Okay.
But again, it depends on how far you blow it up and are able to see it with your own device. But at our level, and that's something that you should be able to see, if we produce a map for you to a very, very precise level, for even at the precinct level, that you'll be able to see where things are at.
So this is Diane. I've got a kind of a follow-on question to that, Jim. I know at one time there was discussion that the elections office will be sending out letters to all registered voters that lists what their new districts will be. Is that still in the works? And if so, is there a date for that being sent out?
We plan on sending out a notice that redistricting has occurred, and that should go out probably in the next couple of weeks.
And it'll include their new districts if their districts have changed, like for the assembly district or the congressional?
For the current redistricting that we're in, yes. For,
Okay.
The districts that have just been adopted. The November election, no. But this is to let them know that redistricting has been completed and that they will be in new districts.
Great, thank you.
So are you sending
You're
that
welcome.
out to, are you sending that out to everyone or just to some people who are whose districts have changed?
That will go to everyone because redistricting is affecting everyone.
Great. I have one more question, which is if for either you or Hillary, which is if you could explain what happens. I know there's some elections where if a certain threshold is reached, it is decided in the primary as opposed to in the November election. Is that correct? And what is that?
Generally, the threshold is 50% plus one. And so any candidate that gets 50% plus one in the primary, when I say any candidate, I'm saying those elective offices at the local level and also at the congressional level. At the congressional level, it's a little bit different. It's the top two that will go to November because there's going to be several candidates there. If one of those candidates gets 50% plus one, it's determined at that election. And so true for the other offices too. So any candidate that does get 50% plus one is the winner of that particular election.
I think that's something for all of you guys who do outreach. I think that's something that's not widely known. So it would be worth having that discussion when you're doing elections.
I've been mentioning that in every group I go to, all the groups I volunteer for.
Thank you, Mike.
I didn't hear you, Mike. What did you say?
I've been mentioning that for every group that I have meetings with, all the organizations
Right.
I meet with, I tell them that. Don't skip the primary and wait for November. It'll be over.
This is actually
Well, that's it.
this
Go
is
ahead.
an inkjet of the actual redistricting postcard. So that this is, I can't scroll because it's got somebody's data on the next screen, but this is a print proof of somebody's actual postcard and letting them know what districts they're in.
That's great, thanks.
Now, how do I stop?
That's terrific. I'm glad that's going out to everyone.
Take over the share so mine will go away because I can't figure this Zoom thing out.
There should be a red button saying stop sharing somewhere on your screen. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, any other questions for the Elections Division?
Petra, I put it in the chat. This is Marnie Rubin. Very quickly, what does a direct primary election mean? We were unclear if we should keep that in our verbiage on materials and what that actually means. We
Take
saw
care
it
of that,
on the
Hillary?
website.
Yeah, if you give me a few minutes.
Okay, we saw it on the election website that was the verbiage used. So, okay, thank you.
Adria had a question.
Good morning. Yeah, I was just wondering if the postcards that you just showed us would be going out in multiple languages.
Yes.
Oh, okay. A direct primary just means that the voters choose the candidates rather than a delegates choosing the candidates. That's what a direct primary means.
And that's
Okay,
where the
so-
top two come to play.
Okay,
Doesn't matter
so
who
that we
is the top two votes.
have to keep that verbiage in on any materials.
Yes, because that's the name of the primary. That's
Got it.
established by
Okay.
statute.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Sorry, just to clarify on the
Jacob.
languages, are
Go ahead.
they like, is it if a voter has a registered language preference that they'll go in that language, or are they actually are bilingual postcards going on or multilingual postcards going
If
on?
they have indicated a language preference, they will get those materials in that particular language. And we do have a new language, Filipino. We've also we will be sending out a postcard to the Filipino language requesters, about 500 or 600 in the county, to let them know that they can get their materials in either English, Filipino, or any other language that we have. So yes, that notice does go out.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any last questions? Nope, going once, going twice. Okay, well, thank you so much, Jim and Hillary, for helping out with this portion. Very necessary updates. Next, I'd
Our
like
pleasure.
to.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Next, I'd like to introduce Andrea Gil, who is the Hope and Youth Civic Empowerment Training Series Program Coordinator at Youth Leadership Institute. And I will put their website in the chat. And she will be presenting about the work that they do here in San Mateo County, but Youth Leadership Institute actually works all across California to engage the next generation of voters. Andrea, you have access to share your screen if needed.
Thank you for that. Good morning, everyone. Just a thumbs up if y'all able to see the screen. All right, thumbs up, I see. Okay, so hi, my name is Andrea Gil, and I'm a program coordinator with Youth Leadership Institute, and I actually invited two of our youth leaders that work with our civic engagement program pretty closely to also help present today, as they were leading the voices directly talking to youth. Can I have Eula and Delana introduce themselves?
Hello, I'm Eula Camera. I'm with the Daly City Bay Leaders. I'm one of the interns at Youth Leadership Institute.
Good morning. I'm Delina. I'm also an intern at the Youth Leadership Institute.
Thank you all for coming today also to help co-facilitate. At Youth Leadership Institute, we build communities where young people and adult allies come together to create positive community change that promotes social justice and racial equity. As we all are aware, this generation of youth are articulate, well-informed, unapologetic to speak their truth, and harness the power to form movements and to impact policies and societal norms. So we always build programs that uplift and harness that energy as a passion and optimism and shape it into something powerful and transformative. And so here is a map of California. And for those who are calling in, I could also, so we have programs in the Bay Area, Marin, San Francisco, San Mateo, Merced, Madera, Fresno, Long Beach, and Eastern Coachella Valley. And each of our sites model what it means to work closely with youth. And we have secured over 130 policy wins. We believe that change happens when conversation takes place, and it really shows can only occur when all voices are heard. And we're here to ensure that youth voices are heard loud and clear. And so what does that look like, right, in terms of voting when you have to be 18 to vote? So a lot of our youth participants will actually show what it means to educate their peers who are not able to vote. So just want to also shout out that in our San Mateo office, we have the following programs. We do alcohol and drug prevention work. We have a mental health youth advisory board. We have the Hope Coalition, which is social media advocacy, digital spaces, online spaces. And then Eula and Delana are actually from our Daly City Bay leaders that work with the civic engagement and home base in Daly City. And then we actually this past fall, we hosted a civic empowerment training series that allowed youth to really engage. What does it mean to take this is like, what is a pathway to be more involved in a local city or at the school level? And you can hear more about that program in a little bit. But I just also wanted to, so yeah, these are the two programs that primarily focus on civic engagement in our office, the Daly City Bay Leaders, which is a program coordinator, Ross Bikes. And then an upcoming one will be Youth Advocates program, which will be across county. And so hopefully we'll have representation through all about San Mateo County, where they're able to really build upon a research of their findings and build out recommendations and take their voices on next level and to advocate. And so this is what some of the work we did for the past election was. We worked closely with integrated voter education, and Eula and Delana was actually the two youth who led a lot of the efforts when it came to voter commitment cards and virtual voter education forum. So I will pass the mic to them to really hear from their own personal experiences and stories working directly with youth.
Okay, so when it came to the voter education programs and like the voter commitment cards, youth who were like 18 years old would sign a card that that claimed that they would commit to vote or learn more about the voting process. So our adult ally Rod Spikes pretty much printed out cards that asked for the following information, like name, email, phone number, and we asked if they would be willing to commit to learn more about the voting process. Delina could talk more about the education forums that we held.
Yes, hello, I'm Delita, and so we held a lot of candidate forums where we interviewed the different candidates running in our local area for mayor, vice mayor, etc. We also held ballot parties to educate youth regarding what was on it, what would they be voting for, how would it affect them, and we listed pros and cons. We also had youth participate in power mapping, so then they would see like, oh, I'm so sorry, my cat really wants attention right now. If you can hear. And then we also had youth participate in power mapping, so they would research regarding different candidates, what those candidates supported, would they support what the youth wanted themselves, it's so on.
So as you can tell, there was like a lot of work and like effort that we put into like hosting and like getting the research done. And I feel like from managing and like helping facilitate and creating this event, we learned that people are honestly hard to talk to, especially now during the pandemic where there are multiple communication like barriers. So it's holding like bigger events and trying to lead these types of events really just comes down to like being able to communicate with like everyone. And there's like a ton of prep and planning to do, especially when it comes to research. And it's great that we were able to get youth to do further research. It's there's the stereotype that youth aren't really like involved within their community, but from these events we've learned that there's so many youth that want to be uh, involved within their community, but they're unable to be due to the lack of communication with adult allies and further information with adult allies. And then some problems that we did run into, as I mentioned earlier, is the whole concept of communication. Due to the pandemic, there were moments where we weren't really on the same like wavelength with each other. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so you and Delana were the two to really gather and lead their youth into these pilot and virtual education forums. So I think it's always great to hear directly from those that led the work closely with youth. And if you do have questions, we do have time for questions if you want to know more about how their experiences went or like what we can do in the future. And so that was integrated voter education. And then our second wavelength of a civic engagement would be the civic empowerment training series. And Eula Delana also participated as youth participants. It was an 8-month training series where young people learned how to get involved with their communities throughout their city, schools, or current campaigns. And we worked closely with the Daly City Youth Health Center, Mary Beer in particular, to really put on this training series. We held monthly, 2 to 3 hour trainings monthly, and we had a cohort series where they really got to talk and debrief. And it really just was meant to set the foundational periods for each youth who entered to really envision like, what would it take for them to be in decision making? And they were able actually to hear guest speakers. That's my favorite part, and I feel like it was all of you's favorite part, was actually being able to talk to city council members. We had James Coleman from South San Francisco. We had Mark Nagels as well. We had Mayor of Daly City, Dr. Rod, chime in. And we also had a youth specialist as well. It's Estrada from San Francisco Youth Commission. And so that was probably one of the greatest experiences without the training series, is because it broke the barrier of youth being able to talk directly to those who hold a form of power. And it also allowed them to ask questions and to really engage that there is a pathway to civic engagement, and it looks a lot like this. And so within their stories, the youth were able to reflect a little bit upon how within, someone from their community was able to form such their own, within the past 2 years, especially how to keep the fire inside. And so with that, we are hoping this came directly from San Mateo County Get Healthy. And we were able to secure funding from others that we will be able to continue our civic empowerment engagement program. And so this was just some of the presentations or the trainings that we hold that we focus on, was the power, privilege, systems of oppression, how an idea becomes the law, how do we build collective power, right? We have all these voices and all these bodies, but what does it mean to actually, what does it look like when we start mobilizing them, and for them to really start thinking their own pathway to civic engagement? Like, what would it take for you to sit on a board and commission something that you are passionate about? And we saw a lot of our youth are passionate about mental health awareness and education. We see a lot of them are passionate about climate change, and a lot of it has, is all intertwined with one another. And yeah, this was just the guest speakers that I mentioned who were able to come out and show out for us. And it was really great to hear from all different divisive decision body. You had city council members, you had school board, you have persons directly working with youth commission. So they were able to envision and ask questions of what does it take and what is the best way to form a movement or to build upon collective power. And these are just some of the upcoming campaign projects. So continuing the candidate and ballot parties, Rod Spikes, our other program coordinator, is already looking forward to hosting more as they were a success last time around. And then Daly City Bay Leaders campaigns aims to advocate for infrastructure to respond to sexual harassment and foster mental health environments. And then we have our youth advocate program where youth will conduct participatory action research directly to create change in their communities. And then this was just some of our partners that we had that we work closely with doing the work is that we have Urban Habitat, People's Alliance San Mateo County, Faith in Action Bay Area, Get Healthy San Mateo County, Daly City Youth Health Center, and San Mateo County Health. And I also want to pause if you and Delana, if you all want to add anything, sorry, I may have rushed a little bit.
I don't think we have anything else to add.
Mm-hmm. We can take questions if anyone has any.
I see Bill raised his hand. Bill, go ahead and ask your question. Thank you, Andrea and Eula and Delana. That was a great presentation.
Thank you, Eula and Delana and Andrea, for everything you're doing for youth and political participation in San Mateo County. I'm interested in how to get more younger people involved just in local political issues within San Mateo County, democracy, etc. I mean, for example, we've got James Coleman right now. He's only 22 years old. He's on the South San Francisco City Council. He's now running for state assembly, I believe. So he's to me, he's somewhat a model. He's kind of unusual. But I'm interested in, I work part-time as a substitute teacher in the high schools in San Mateo County, so I have some contact with younger people that way, but also very interested in how to get younger people involved locally in San Mateo County beyond just, I mean, high school is very important in getting people registered to vote and that kind of thing. We do some of that in some of the volunteer work I do, but also I'm interested in how we get people after they leave high school, 18 to 25, somewhere that range. I know it's really hard and expensive to stay in San Mateo County, so I know a lot of younger people are probably moving out, but just whatever your experiences have been in terms of your contact with outreach with other younger people in San Mateo County.
Well, I could answer that. So regarding the youth specifically in high school, we tried different methods of trying to have like a larger youth engagement. And honestly, the biggest events where more youth actually attended were events that actually had incentives. So that's like a huge thing that got like people to actually look into the events, and which kind of led to like more people, like once they attended the events and they realized that they were interested in it, we'd offer like open meetings where they could actually feel free to like attend. Let's see, and then your question regarding youth advocacy regarding people 18 and up, graduated from college. So Delina and I are actually both in college currently. So we've pretty much been with YLI since high school. So it's really just about maintaining communication with high school students and like seeing if they need support or like trying to see what they're interested in, because YLI, Youth Leadership Institute, we honestly base a lot of our topics and projects on what the youth are interested in. So the fact that we go with whatever they're interested in really helps get people to stay and engage more with the actual program.
Can you comment a little bit, Yula, on a little bit of examples of some of those events and what some of the events, activities that youths have been particularly interested in, concerned about, that you've held?
Oh yeah, of course. So we held as I believe we mentioned earlier, we held some like the ballot party. Let's see, we had like, that was one of our bigger events because we had like the Daly City mayor candidates come in, and the fact that we had like a safe space for youth to actually get involved and interact with potential like rule makers and like mayors. Honestly, it was like really encouraging. We got a lot of positive feedback, because at the end of the day, a lot of youth just want to be heard, and the fact that we do offer a safe space to for them to interact with like higher ups really helps. And there's also the fact that most youth, they were given incentives such as like gift cards, as Delina said in the chat. So yeah, and I believe we interacted with a lot of teachers, so their teachers would offer extra credit for them to actually attend. So that was another incentive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yula and Delina. I think Mike has a question. Is that you, Mike?
Yes,
Okay.
actually, I'm really excited to hear this presentation. Believe it or not, everybody on this call was probably under 25 at one time, so really exciting to hear what you're doing, because I don't recall having this around when I was under 25. We were actually trying to get the vote lowered to 18. That's how long ago it was. But I think the thing I would say is not to get discouraged, just to, obviously the last 20 years have been a lot of serious trauma for young people, and I think at some point things are going to calm down, and hopefully your program will get way bigger. But what I want to ask is, when youth are consulted and asked their opinion or asked about participation, the responses you just gave about wanting to be heard and being focused on their issues and things like that come up all the time. And then somewhere there's a disconnect, where somebody might register and then they don't vote. And my theory has always been they're inundated. You get this huge ballot pamphlet or something like that. And I've always told people, whatever age they are, just look at the titles or the names or the office and decide if that's something that you're interested in. I don't care if it's, school issues or plastic bags or environment, and read up on those. And you don't get an F, your ballot doesn't get rejected if you leave half of it empty. It's okay to just vote on the things you're passionate about. So anyway, I'm just wondering if you approach any of your advocacy from that point of view.
Well, so obviously we don't expect, like, yes, people could sign the commitment cards, but at the end of the day, we can't really control whether or not they actually go through with it. But we do have moments where we give out surveys so we could better understand the needs of youth and like their opinions. And that honestly helps like try to figure out ways to get more engagement and like trying to get more youth to be more active in their communities. So because based off of the surveys, the survey results, which I believe got like over 300 responses, we were able to find out that youth, when they, despite the like lack of youth engagement usually within like communities, there's genuinely so many youth that do want to get like involved within their community. It's just there is, as I said earlier, a lack of communication, and there's like a disconnect between adult allies and youth because adults typically don't really see youth as equals according to surveys, and youth don't really know how to interact and work with adult allies. So we try to.
I completely agree. I completely agree with what you just said.
Yeah.
I've been on the youth commission for not a member but an attendee. I've been on juvenile justice commission, and you're right. It's like the discussion is going on, and they're off in the corner somewhere. And I always feel like saying, "What do you think?" to some younger person who's a member of one of those groups, just to interrupt the adults a little bit and hear from somebody. But I don't know how to get over that hurdle either. But it's an important I want to try and accomplish. There's no way to push too hard. I'll just tell you that. Just tell people to push harder if they're not being heard. Nobody's going to bite their head off. They'll probably be embarrassed.
Yeah, that's actually one of the main issues that we try to tackle with this program is the disconnect between youth and adult allies. And it's just really trying to better like communication and trying to help youth in general be heard and make them feel like what they say, all their opinions and all their efforts do impact the community. Because a lot of youth have vocalized the fact that whenever they do communicate with an adult ally, it's as if their words and like actions don't really have an impact, and that's when youth are typically discouraged.
Thank you so much. Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to add on that, like, with our group, with our local group, I guess, we have a very close-knit group. And I think has a lot to do with how our advisor handled things, where I guess like his actions spoke louder than words to me, where if someone was having a bad day, he would drop a lot of things to make sure that person was okay. And if I were to say that, oh, I feel kind of disconnected from our group right now, like I feel like we aren't bonding as well, he'd be like, okay, we're going to have a bonding activity right now. And then I think those things that he did for us just like made me like love our group even more, love what we were doing even more, and just want to like keep staying. I guess that's what made me so passionate about YLI, about my local group, because of the small things he did like that. I guess, if that makes sense.
This has been a terrific conversation, and really appreciate YLI coming and sharing with us. Really appreciate you guys being here. We all know, we've looked at the numbers before, that youth is one of the lowest turnout rates. So anything we can do to support your work and take some of your learnings and use for our own outreach. And you are always welcome to come to this meeting once a month. We appreciate hearing what other people are doing and kind of really honing in on some of those issues, like the disconnect for youth between youth and adults. It's good for us old people to hear. We have 2 more things we really need to get to today, and we have 8 minutes left. So first of all, I'd like to have Jack Mahoney from Silicon Valley Community Foundation talk about the funding available through the Elections Office, and then I'm going to talk about the Elections Toolkit that we're working on. So go ahead, Jack.
Thanks, Petra. Yeah, well, Petra said it, and a lot of it was included in the email before this particular meeting. But so we at Silicon Valley Community Foundation have partnered with the San Mateo County Elections Office to make funding available for voter education and outreach in advance of the June election specifically. It's not for both the June and November elections, just for this June primary election. But the objective is really to target specific precincts or specific communities, including, for example, youth, communities of color, where there's historically been lower turnout in San Mateo County. We have a wealth of evidence from some of the work that Mindy Romero has done and others about where those specific gaps are and what some of the strategies are that could lead to some turnout increases, particularly person-to-person outreach and canvassing and, all and phone banking, all the available tools that we have at our disposal. But we have kind of a tight timeline for this. So if you are interested in getting some funding, please let me know as soon as possible. What we require is just a brief outline or proposal from your organization indicating what you're interested in doing. The grants themselves will be probably up to $15,000 available per organization. And we're seeking to cover, all of the low turnout precincts in the county. Which is pretty ambitious, but and we have Petra and Yahaira as partners in this work, and Petra and Yahaira are going to be working with us to support some of the groups as we go throughout the run up to the June election, which we're really excited about. But all that to say, Petra, Yahaira, did I miss anything?
I think that's it, except you need to tell Jack like today.
Yeah, as soon as possible. I'm going to drop my email in the chat, and I know I've heard from some of you, but if you can get in touch with me, as soon as possible, that would be wonderful. And please do reach out if you have any questions or if you're interested, or if you know of other organizations that are not on this call, please feel free to share it with them and put me in touch with them, and I can follow up.
Thank you, Jack. And then another thing that's new this year that Thrive is spearheading with some able assistance from Diane is that we are going to be putting together some elections toolkits. And it's very similar actually to what YLI was talking about making things accessible and kind of creating cohorts. So we're going to put together something that we can give to your organization, and your organization can take it and give it to several different people, a little bit like a pyramid marketing scheme, where you give someone the toolkit, tell them how to use it, and then they get their friends together or their colleagues or their community in whatever way that looks, in order for them to do that kind of, again, YLI was very good about saying like the disconnect between adults and youth. There's also sometimes a disconnect between like us and directly into the community. So this gives that kind of middle step where you're getting the information from a trusted messenger, but we've given all of the tools. That's why we're calling it a toolkit. So it's something that you can give to a group that's already meeting about something else, and they'll have everything they need, all of the answers, all of the questions. It'll be a little pledge card. You can do it either virtually or in person. And the cool part is it comes with a stipend. So again, and YLI, we're taking good notes. You can use some of that for food, because food gets people to events. You can use it for gift cards, whatever you want, in order to get people to come and then have these little election education parties, basically. So if anybody's interested in that, again, it's a $1,500 stipend that comes as well as like all of the materials. And our hope is to partner with some of your organizations to use that. So reach out to me or Yahaira on that one. And then for everyone who gets funded through the elections office, we'll have a kickoff meeting probably at the beginning of April and share resources and plans. And for our next VEOAC meeting, we're going to do an hour and a half because we keep talking really fast, and we'd love to actually have more time to share about what everybody's doing and how the outreach is going, because by next time it's already April 20th, which is E minus something. I'm sure Hillary could tell us exactly. So it'll be time where everything's really kicked into high gear. So in the meantime, please reach out to us anytime. And does anybody have anything else they want to say in the next 3 minutes? Because we really just didn't get a chance to hear from everyone. Any announcements, anything that anybody's working on that they want to share?
Hi, yeah, just real fast. I'm Glenn Olson with the Immigration Institute of the Bay Area. We're putting on we do a lot of election outreach to new citizens. And we're hoping to put on a couple of voter information sessions. And we're looking for partners for that. So the audience would be new citizens living in San Mateo the last 5 years. So if you or your organization would be interested in participating in those, I'm gonna just put my email in the chat real fast, but that's all I got.
Great, thank you. We love new citizens. Marnie.
Hi, I always have something to say, Petra. I know, but I did want to follow on and say that the League of Women Voters, we're rolling out our outreach for the primary, and that includes our, postcards, materials, phone banking, volunteering at voter reg events, all sorts of stuff. So we're going to be reaching out to a lot of people looking for volunteers. And I wanted to just say, hi, Jack. Hi, Jack at SVCF, and that we're really proud of our Latinas in Action program, where we sponsor and actually use grant monies or our monies budgeted to pay community organizers to be at our events, particularly in Spanish, Spanish speakers, so that we can outreach to those communities. So we're doing that again this year, not through grant monies, but through our own budget. But I did want to throw out that if anybody's interested perhaps in having a paid internship program for students or youth, or a contest for youth, maybe that might be a good use of grant monies. I don't know if, Jack, that might be of interest, but something when you talk about incentives, just getting, reinvesting in the youth as well. We've found that reinvesting in the community can be really helpful for voter outreach and turnout. So anyway, that was my my plug, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody this election season.
Great. Anybody else want to share? Okay. Thank you all so much for coming. Special thanks to YLI for the great presentation.